The sirens cut through the desert air like a blade, and in that single moment everything that felt safe about the world collapsed. On an empty highway under a pale sky, a woman lay on the asphalt, her breath shallow, her dignity shattered, while authority stood over her not as protection, but as threat. Fear has a sound, and that day it echoed louder than the police lights spinning behind her. Before this story goes any further, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what's right when the world turns cold, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Her name was Lena, and she had never thought of herself as brave. She was a nurse who worked long shifts, who believed that helping people heal was enough to make the world fair. She loved a biker named Mark, not for his leather jacket or the roaring engine, but for the quiet way he listened, the way he showed up every single time. The patches on his back scared people, and the whispers followed him everywhere, but Lena only saw the men who brought her coffee at dawn and waited outside the hospital after night shifts. That day, she was driving home alone, Mark riding hours behind her after a long road trip, when red and blue lights appeared in her mirror. What happened next was a blur of confusion and fear. The stop should have been routine, but it wasn't. The officer's anger came without reason, his power pressing down on her like weight on her chest. Lena's hands shook as she tried to explain, as she tried to stay calm, but calm meant nothing in that moment. By the time the sirens faded into silence, she was left on the road, bruised in body and spirit, staring up at the endless sky and wondering how trust could be broken so fast. She didn't call Mark right away. Shame has a way of silencing even the strongest hearts. When she finally made it home, she locked the door and cried until exhaustion replaced fear. But truth doesn't stay hidden forever, and when Mark saw the marks she tried to cover, something in him changed. It wasn't rage at first. It was pain, deep and heavy, the kind that settles in your bones. He held her without words, and in that silence, a decision began to form. Mark had spent years trying to live quietly, distancing himself from the darker shadows of his past. The brotherhood he rode with was known everywhere, feared everywhere, but to him they were men who had survived hard lives and looked out for each other when no one else would. When the story reached them, it spread not like fire, but like a slow, unstoppable storm. Not because they wanted revenge, but because they understood something many had forgotten. Power without accountability destroys lives. The days that followed were heavy with tension. Lena struggled to return to work, every flashing light sending her heart racing. Mark stayed close, not as a protector with fists clenched, but as a reminder that she wasn't alone. And then something unexpected happened. Cameras surfaced. Witnesses found courage. The truth, once buried under fear, began to rise. It turned out that the desert road wasn't as empty as it seemed, and silence was no longer possible. As pressure mounted, the system that once ignored her began to listen. Investigations opened, not because of intimidation, but because too many eyes were watching now. The story reached people who had their own scars, their own memories of being powerless. Lena found herself at the center of something bigger than her pain. She spoke not as a victim seeking pity, but as a woman demanding dignity. Each step was terrifying, but each step forward made her stronger. Mark's brothers never showed up with violence. They showed up with presence. Long lines of motorcycles parked quietly outside court buildings and hospitals, not blocking roads, not shouting threats, just standing there as a reminder that she mattered. The image traveled far, changing the narrative people expected. It wasn't chaos. It was solidarity. The officer who abused his power faced consequences that no badge could protect him from. His uniform, once a symbol of authority, became evidence of betrayal. For Lena, justice didn't erase the memory, but it gave her room to breathe again. Healing came slowly, through therapy, through sleepless nights, through Mark's steady hand in hers. She learned that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's simply refusing to disappear. Before this story ends, please comment below with a single word that represents what justice means to you. Your voice matters more than you know. In the end, Lena returned to the road, not because she wasn't afraid, but because fear no longer owned her. She kept nursing, kept loving, kept believing that goodness could survive even the worst moments. Mark rode beside her, not as a shield, but as a partner. And the world, watching from a distance, learned something important. Kindness doesn't mean weakness, and second chances don't mean forgetting. They mean choosing to build something better from what was broken. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that standing up for one person can change many lives, please like, share, and engage with this video. Your support tells these stories they are worth being heard, and reminds others that even on the loneliest road, no one has to stand alone.